You are standing in your kitchen when you notice something impossible. The clock reads a different time every time you look at it. The doorway opens onto a beach. Your dog is explaining tax law with suspicious confidence. Normally, the dream just continues. Of course, the kitchen opens onto the ocean. Of course, the dog is an accountant. Then a thought arrives that almost never arrives inside a dream. Wait, this is not real. And the entire world changes without changing at all. The walls are still solid. The floor still holds you. Light still falls across every surface. Your body still feels present. But now you understand that none of it is coming in through your eyes. You are asleep. And inside the hallucination, you have become conscious of the hallucination. So what actually happens when you become conscious inside a dream? Hold on to that question, because the answer is not the one most people expect, and it takes the rest of this video to earn. Start with the assumption that needs to go. Most people think the strange part of a lucid dream is the consciousness. It isn't. Ordinary dreams are already conscious experiences. You see in them, you hear, you feel fear and desire and embarrassment. A nightmare races your heart over a threat that does not exist. Dream food has taste. Dream characters are intelligent enough to win arguments with you, which is impressive given that they are generated by the same brain currently losing. What ordinary dreams lack is not consciousness. It is insight. You experience the world without recognizing where it came from. You do not ask why your childhood home is floating above a city you have never visited. Awake, your brain runs constant checks. Does this fit what I know? How did I get here? What happened 5 minutes ago? In a dream, those questions vanish or get answered instantly with fiction. The brain becomes an excellent special effects department supervised by nobody. Lucidity is the supervisor coming back. For most of the 20th century, nobody could study this. Someone wakes up and says they knew they were dreaming, and there is no way to check. Maybe they briefly woke. Maybe they built the memory afterward. Maybe they were trying to impress a scientist, a strategy with a long and unpromising history. The way out came from the eyes. During REM sleep, almost all of your skeletal muscles are switched off. This is atonia, and it is what stops you from physically acting out your dreams. The muscles controlling your eyes are exempt. They keep moving. So, researchers made an arrangement. Before sleep, a trained lucid dreamer agrees on a signal, a deliberate sequence of looking hard left, hard right, left, right. Then they go to sleep. If they become lucid, they turn their dream eyes in that exact pattern. Beneath the closed eyelids, the physical eyes do it too. The recording equipment catches it. Brain activity, muscle tone, and sleep stage all confirm the person is still asleep. That is a message sent out of a dream by someone still inside it. It turned lucid dreaming from an anecdote into an experiment, and it produced one of the strangest clocks in science. A dreamer marks the moment lucidity starts, performs a planned task, marks the end, then describes it on waking. Events reported from inside the dream line up against a physical record of the sleeping body. What that record shows is not a brain switching on. Lucid dreaming is a hybrid. Physiologically, it is still sleep, but the systems handling self-reflection, attention, working memory, and voluntary control run warmer than in an ordinary dream. The evidence points especially toward parts of the prefrontal and parietal cortex, the regions that monitor your own thinking and hold a model of who you are. Those regions are unusually quiet during normal sleep, which is probably why floating houses go unchallenged. The brain does not restore everything. It restores just enough for the dreamer to notice. Picture a theatre performing with no director. Sets change at random, actors invent their lines, scenes start halfway through and end in a different country. Lucidity is not the theatre shutting down. It is the director walking onto the stage and realizing that the actors, the audience, and the building are all part of the production, which explains the thing most people get wrong. Knowing you are dreaming does not make you powerful. Some lucid dreamers fly, change continents, summon people, rebuild the landscape. Others know exactly what is happening and cannot alter a thing, stuck in the same nightmare, now with the additional information that their own brain is refusing customer support. Insight and control are separate skills, and the second one is unreliable for a reason worth understanding. Waking perception is not a recording. Your brain builds a model of the world and corrects it constantly against incoming sensory data. In a dream, the correction is almost entirely gone. Prediction is the whole world. That is why dream objects feel solid. Your brain already knows what solidity feels like, and it generates pressure, weight, texture, and temperature with nothing there. And it is why forcing a change fails. Your intention has to compete against expectation, emotion, memory, and a great deal of activity you have no access to. If you believe a locked door is locked, it stays locked, even knowing there is no lock. If you are afraid something is behind you, you have just given your brain an extremely efficient instruction. Command a person to appear, and you get nothing. Expect them behind the next door, and the dream cooperates. Fight gravity with willpower, and you stay on the ground. Imagine being lifted, and you rise. There is a measurement that makes this concrete. When a lucid dreamer visually tracks something moving smoothly inside the dream, their physical eyes produce smooth pursuit, the same motion they would make following a real object. Awake, most people cannot do that by imagining. Seeing inside a lucid dream is closer to perception than to picturing something. The brain is not sketching a scene. It is rendering one and filing it as current reality. Then researchers asked whether anything could get in from outside. Across several laboratories, people confirmed to be in REM sleep were given information in real time. Spoken words, flashing lights, physical touch. Some lucid dreamers perceived it inside the dream and answered back using the agreed eye movements or small facial muscle signals. Researchers asked arithmetic. The sleeping participants sometimes got it right. One dreamer heard the question arrive through a car radio. Another heard the experimenter's voice coming from somewhere outside the world they were standing in. The signal got absorbed into the story, and the person understood it anyway, and replied. That is a two-way conversation with someone asleep and dreaming. It does not work reliably. Plenty of questions got no answer. Some were misheard. Some dreamers remembered nothing. The connection has roughly the stability of a phone call in a tunnel. But it happened, which means the dreaming mind is not sealed. Now the uncomfortable part. You never notice the atonia, because the dream hands you a working body, and you have no reason looking for the real one. But sometimes awareness returns before the paralysis lifts. You know you are in your bed, you cannot move, and dream imagery is still bleeding into the room. A figure near the door. Weight sitting on your chest. Footsteps. That is sleep paralysis. It is not lucid dreaming, though the two live next door to each other. The presence in the room feels real for exactly the same reason the dream beach felt real. Your brain constructs perception without adequate input, and threat detection is doing its best to explain the situation. For some experienced dreamers, it becomes a doorway back into lucidity. For everyone else, it is several seconds of discovering that their bedroom has terrible supernatural security. Then there is the one that is genuinely hard to shake. You wake up, you sit up, check your phone, walk to the bathroom, and then you notice something impossible because you never woke up. The dream simulated the awakening, including a convincing copy of your bedroom and your morning routine. Some people run several in a row and come away feeling like they were trapped in layers. There are no nested worlds. The brain generated a new scene whose subject matter happens to be waking up. From inside, that distinction is useless. Each fake room feels like the real one until something is tested, which is the lesson underneath all of it. Certainty is not evidence. It is a sensation your brain produces. In an ordinary dream, it attaches to a floating house. In a false awakening, it attaches to a bedroom that is not there. Awake, sensory input keeps it honest most of the time. But you are still living inside a model. That is why reality tests work at all. Reading text twice, checking a clock, counting fingers, pinching your nose, and trying to breathe. The specific test barely matters. What matters is running the habit of critical reflection often enough while awake that it eventually surfaces while asleep. A dream journal helps, mostly by making your recurring patterns recognizable. So does waking briefly after a dream, rehearsing it, forming a firm intention to catch the next one, then going back to sleep. Be honest with yourself about the trade, though. Repeatedly interrupting your own sleep to chase lucid dreams is an impressive way to turn sleep into a source of sleep deprivation. Substances marketed as shortcuts carry real side effects, and adjusting your sleep chemistry without medical guidance is not a casual experiment. Lucid dreaming is not dangerous for most healthy people, but lucid nightmares exist, and awareness without control can make a frightening dream worse rather than better. If you already struggle to keep internal experience separate from external reality, deliberately blurring that line is not a hobby I would recommend. And set your expectations about what is actually in there. A dream cannot give you feedback it does not possess. You can rehearse a movement you already know or reduce your anxiety about performing it. You cannot learn a new technique from an instructor assembled out of your existing knowledge. If your sleeping brain does not know how to repair an engine, handing the dream mechanic a clipboard will not improve his qualifications. A dream character can say something that feels profound, but the words came from processes inside your own skull. No dream will produce a phone number you never learned. What it will show you is your own reaction to a situation. You can walk toward the thing you have been running from and find out whether it changes when approached. You can ask a recurring nightmare what it wants and get an answer built entirely out of your own memory and fear. That is not a message from an oracle. It can still be worth hearing. So, what actually happens when you become conscious inside a dream? This. Your brain pulls apart two things that feel welded together every waking second. Experiencing a reality and knowing what kind of reality you are experiencing. Ordinary dreaming proves that a brain cut off from its surroundings can build an entire world. Lucid dreaming proves that self-awareness can appear inside that world without ending it. In a normal dream, the first survives and the second fails. In a lucid dream, you get both at once. You stand on an impossible beach, feel cold water around your ankles, hear the waves, watch light move on the horizon, and know that the entire ocean is being manufactured somewhere inside a sleeping skull. Then it ends. Sometimes it fades. Sometimes you end it deliberately. Sometimes an alarm arrives, disguised as music, or as a character who has become extremely repetitive. Sensation returns, the muscles unlock. The bedroom replaces the world, and the brain rebuilds its waking model so fast you never see it happen. The dream survives only as memory, and dream memory is fragile. Within minutes, the dialogue and the architecture and the feeling of the water are mostly gone. What felt like a complete universe compressed into a few sentences you would struggle to make interesting at breakfast. But one thing is hard to forget. For a few minutes, you were inside a world made entirely by your own mind, and you knew it, and you could look around while it was still being built.